everybody, welcome to the final part 7 of the Tamiya Corolla build. In this video we'll be finishing the model off. Starting off with the rear lights, we've actually gone back a stage. You remember in the previous video we'd actually fitted the body shell to the chassis. This was a previous segment that I didn't want to include in that video about building the rear lights. So the actual backing for the lights has been painted in black, and we're just highlighting the actual lenses within the light cluster with some Tamiya sparkling silver. It's a lacquer paint, and it's really a case of really flooding the indentations in the moulding where the light reflectors are. So it's a fairly simple job. It's quite easy to get the correct shape. You can see that we've also painted the light clusters themselves, the transparencies, in Tamiya clear red. They've been sprayed, having previously been masked off. We'll come back to that in a second. So just work around, as I said, the reflectors on these panels. Now I mentioned the sequence for painting the transparencies themselves. We just need to isolate the clear reversing lamp and the orange indicator lamps on these transparencies. So we've done that using some mascol, which is watered down a little bit and flooded into the depressions on the rear of the moulding. That allows us then to spray the rest of the transparency in transparent red, clear red, which is a Tamiya colour. So we're going on now to paint the two rear indicator lenses. It's a job that's fairly easy because we've already created a ridge with the masking and the painting of the red. So it's left a little hollow there just to flood the area with the transparent orange paint. These transparent Tamiya colours can't stand a lot of work with them. They need to be dropped in and left. They soon clump up on the brush and dry out very quickly, so you have to work quickly, drop them in and leave them alone. I usually leave them a good few hours to make sure that they're fully dry before attempting to fit them to the model. So we're going to move on to that stage now, just using some canopy glue again. Just a few dots around the cluster. This is transparent, so when it dries, the glue is transparent when it dries, so don't need to worry about leaving any trace of it. You can see when the lenses are in place over the silver and black that we painted earlier on, it just pops out the actual lamps themselves. So the red, orange and clear. So that's obviously the main lights, the brake light, indicators and reversing lights. Just going to prep the rear wing now. This has obviously been painted and we need a really strong bond here, so I'm taking away the paint down to the bare plastic just to make sure that there's a good bond for the cement when we come to fit the wing. So that's an easy job to do. So using some Revel contactor there, just position the wing, or the spoiler some people might like to call it, and just hold it in place with some tape just to make sure it doesn't slip around. It's not a very positive fixing point on this model, so just a bit of tape just to hold it in the correct position and just leave it to set up for Well, I left it on for a few hours while I pressed on with the rest of the model, so there's no rush, they can stay there. It's not going to harm, the tape isn't going to harm the finish at all. So moving on to the aerial bases now. The two forward aerials bases are already moulded in on the number board just ahead of where we're working here, but these two rear aerial bases are optional. Sometimes the car doesn't carry those fittings, but they did on the Corolla rally, so that's why we drilled the holes out earlier on and fitting those two parts now. One of my most hated jobs on a car is painting the rubbers around the headlight lenses. There is a bit of a technique to this, which is to use the edge of the brush. Don't try and use the point of the brush. It's very difficult to keep a straight line, but if you just use the edge of the brush to work around the edge of the moulding, then it's fairly straightforward to get a reasonable neat finish around the edge of these parts. It's quite a noticeable feature of these cars that they do have those black rubbers around the headlights, so it's worth trying to reproduce them. Just gluing in the indicator lenses now, which have previously been painted in Tamiya clear orange. They weren't a great fit actually. I think I might come back, having looked at the completed model earlier on, I might come back and try and refit those. Standing a bit proud of the bodywork, but for the purposes of this, they'll look okay. There they are, going in with a bit of canopy glue. So the wing mirrors, they've been decaled in some carbon fibre, pewter and silver carbon fibre, and obviously with the logo decals on as well. And I've just added the mirrors with some bare metal foil super chrome. Just a case of dropping those on with, again, with a bit of canopy glue. We're working very close to the transparent parts here, so I don't want to risk super gluing these on, or even for that matter using some polystyrene cement if it's just a quick slip and it's not possible to get polystyrene cement off of transparencies without an awful lot of work. So the PVA is a much safer option. Just dropping the last decal on now on the sun visor. That's the last of the decals on what is a very difficult scheme. I think the next build I'm going to have to choose something a bit more straightforward just to rattle through the decaling on the next one. This one's been quite a trial really, especially with the problems I had with the Carpina decals for the RAC rally version, which I had to give up on. I'm going to be moving on to the number plate next. Tamiya do provide just a straightforward decal for the number plate, but I decided to use the stainless steel relief moulded number plate in the etch set that I was using, the Scale Motorsports etch set. I think it just adds a little bit to the model rather than just having a flat decal for the number plate. And it's just a case of laying the Tamiya decal over the previously painted moulded etch steel. So just dropping in the three aerials on the roof. They're just made from some black stretched sprue and super glued onto the receptacles on the top of the roof there. make sure they're the same length. Actually, looking at photographs, one of those aerials is quite a bit thicker than the others, but I've not tried to replicate that. I might go back to it at some later stage. So onto the bonnet pins now. These are again from the Scale Motorsports edge steel set. I tried to video folding these parts, but they're just so tiny I couldn't get the camera to register them at all, so you'll be able to see them on the close-ups of the finished model at the end of the video. They're extremely accurate, and if you can have the patience to actually put them together, I think they're probably well worth it. They're much better than the moulded plastic on the original model. These holder pencils are quite good, but sometimes you just have trouble getting them off. So just making sure that they're in the correct position. Sometimes a good idea actually, when you originally take the moulding off where the plastic bonnet pins are, is just to drill a tiny indentation just so that you can tell in future where the pins are meant to line up. Just checking that they're completely parallel with each other using a steel rule. Just to make sure they're in exactly the correct position on both sides of the car. And the wire rings need to be fitted on top of those. They actually slot into a tiny little hook on the moulding. And once we've got the wire rings on top of those, that's the model completed. So we'll just have a quick video look around the car in the next clip, and then we'll be finishing the video off with some close-up stills of the model. So there we are. We're pretty pleased with the result of this one. The scheme is very challenging. It's probably one of the most challenging schemes that you can attempt on one of these cars. Trying to get those decals to wrap around that back bumper is pretty difficult, but the technique of just overlaying the decal with a coat of the 2-pack, and then once the decals are sealed in, just touching them up with the Tamiya Park Green really worked a treat, and I'm pleased with how they came out. So you can see all the details there. We're going to be doing something a bit more simple next time. We're probably moving on to one of the Mitsubishi Lancer kits, also from Tamiya, so that'll be coming up in the next video builds probably. So if you want to pick up on those when we start putting those videos together, if you just want to subscribe to the channel, that would be great. Be great to see you again. In the meantime, we're just going to go on to some stills of the finished model. Thanks for watching this series. I hope you enjoyed it and picked up a few tips along the way, and we'll see you next time.